Good evening all. Welcome to our Tuesday evening meeting of the Fairfield Golden Speakers Toastmasters Club. My name is Rick Starr. I'm the Sergeant at Arms. It's my pleasure to introduce our acting president, Mr. Monty Condon.
Thanks, Rick. As Rick said, I am your acting president tonight. Our regularly scheduled president, Lewis Dembaum, and his beautiful wife are off vacationing somewhere, I imagine, on a tropical island. So let's wish them well. They should be back here next week. Toastmasters, Golden Speakers Toastmasters Club, is just one club out of 14,000 Toastmaster clubs around the world. But the mission of a Toastmasters club is the same. They all share the same mission. The mission is to provide our members a positive and supportive learning environment so that they can develop their communication and their leadership skills. This leads to two things: greater self-confidence, and then my personal favorite, personal growth.
Yay!
Now, I think most people have come to learn that if they really want to grow personally, you're going to have to stretch a little bit. You're going to have to initially do something, put yourself out there, and do something that makes you maybe a little bit uncomfortable at first. Now, what better place to do that than in an environment where you're supported? And that's what Toastmaster provides. That's what makes Toastmasters unique, in my opinion. And that's really how it helps develop leadership skills and communication skills. Do we have any guests? I think we just have members tonight. A guest-free night, so we can skip the guest introductions. Let us get right to it. I'm going to introduce our Toastmaster for the evening, Mr. Will Burns.
Thank you, Monty. Tonight we have a wonderful meeting. We have 3 illustrious speakers who will be speaking tonight. We have table topics. We have evaluations, chance to grow. The theme of our meeting tonight is introductions. And I want you all to think about that, a little bit as you come up here. If you're giving an introduction, maybe, just reflect. How you do that yourself, or how you can do it better yourself. Just try it that way. It's a powerful thing that adds to the power of our speakers, evaluators, and our table topics. And it's great for the world out there as well. First off, it's my pleasure to call up our counter, Raven Garland.
Good evening, everyone. I'll be counting all of the ahs and ums and likes and you knows and buts and a few other things. And I'll give a report at the end.
All right, next is my pleasure to call on our timer to read the timing report. Good evening.
Sandy here? Anybody? Sandy? No Sandy. I'm not the timer. I'm just sitting in their position. But I am the grammarian. I might be able to do both. It could be difficult. Has anybody seen Sandy tonight?
She's not here.
All right. Well,
maybe anybody not have a role that wants to take the timer role?
I'm a tabletop evaluator. I could do a grammarian role, given a few minutes to prepare.
Okay.
He's
I'm the
the
grammarian.
grammarian. He needs a timer.
Okay, I can
Okay,
do
so
that.
you'll the timer.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
My role as timer is to keep track of the time that each speaker speaks in this evening's meeting and give a report at the end of the meeting. Table topics are 1 to 2 minute speeches. The green light, if all is well, will go on at 1 minute, the yellow at 1 minute and 30, and the red at 2 minutes and remain on until the end of the speech. Each speaker in each section of the meeting who has a time has 30 seconds after the red light goes on to wrap up or risk being disqualified for overtime. We have speeches tonight. I don't have an agenda in front of me. They are ordinarily 5 to 7 minutes in length. In a 5 to 7 minute speech, the green goes on at 5, the yellow at 6, and the red at 7. Table topics and other evaluators, table topics and others, are 2 to 3 minute speeches. The green goes on at 2, the yellow at 2 minutes 30, and the red at 3 minutes and stays on until the end of the speaking. And I'll be giving you a report on each speaker and their time at the end of the meeting.
Thank you, Art. Stepped in there. And now it's my pleasure to call on our grammarian, Mr. Fauna Miller.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. I am going to be checking for any distinct use of the English language, metaphors, analogies, any use of the word of the day, which is sparkling, and the synonyms are glittering, glowing, shiny, and bejeweled. So you can get an idea of what the definition is of those synonyms. And I'll be basically paying attention to each table topics and each prepared speech for just, notable uses of the language, and give a report at the end. So be creative with your speeches. If you have some time to just lay out those creativity words, I'll be looking for them. All right, thank you.
Later on, we'll hear from our greeter joke master with a joke for us, Dan Craig. That's all later, people. As well as later on in the meeting, we'll also hear from our general evaluator, Rick Starr. And now we're into the main course of our evening. We kind of mix up our courses here a little bit, Toastmasters from time to time. I'm supposed to call up our first evaluator, Monty Congdon, who will read the objectives for DJ.
Thank you, Will. Toastmasters. DJ is going to be giving his project number 2 in the CC manual tonight, his CC number 2, which is called Organize Your Speech. The objectives for this speech is, number 1, to select an appropriate outline which allows listeners to easily follow and understand your speech. Number 2, make your message clear with supporting material directly contributing to your message. Use appropriate transitions when moving from one idea to another. And last but not least, create a strong opening and conclusion. This speech should be 5 to 7 minutes long. DJ is one of our sparkling new members here at Golden Speakers. He's a student at MUM, and I believe you are originally from Singapore. Yes. Please welcome DJ.
I am about to make all of you really uncomfortable. So I apologize beforehand, and rest assured that it's coming from my best intentions. So, fellow Toastmasters, yes, viewers at home, let us talk about pigs, shall we? As we know, we owe pigs a lot. Pigs have offered us many culinary delights. Pork chops, pork ribs, bacon. All these mouth-watering delicacies that make us crave for more. So shouldn't it be expected that we show these animals more appreciation? Unfortunately, it is not fun to be born as a pig on planet Earth, especially if you're raised in factory farms. You have to live and be compacted into warehouses, living on concrete with steel grates, never knowing what fresh air smells like, what it's like to play in the sun, how does grass feel on your feet, 97% of pigs in America are all factory farmed. That means they are all living on their own waste and excrements. This causes a lot of suffering and causes mange, which is a really itchy and painful skin disease that hardly goes away. It also causes them to breathe in toxic gases such as ammonia that is derived from their waste. This is such a bad lung infection that 80% of the pigs in America are found to have pneumonia at the time of slaughter. So on top of that, they routinely fed antibiotics into their diets, which makes their waste only more toxic. So pigs have a very strong will to survive, and as scavengers, they eat almost anything. So in order to survive when they're starving and hungry, they even eat their own waste, their own urine, vomit, carcasses, rotting foods, cancerous growths. Unfortunately for them, their own digestive system is incapable of effectively removing such toxins because the time that they take to digest foods is too short. It takes about 4 hours for the whole digestion period to take place. And within this time, toxins are actually stored into their fat cells and into their organs, which we eat. So pigs do not have sweat glands. You have to be aware of that too, because that means that the toxins accumulated in their bodies cannot be removed through sweat. So it's going to be stored in their bodies until they're slaughtered and transferred to us. So due to research, it is shown that 69% of pigs, their raw samples that this company called Consumer Reports have shown that this bacteria called Yersinia enterocolitica is found in all these samples. This bacteria, unfortunately, causes fever, vomiting, diarrhea, cramps, and gastrointestinal illnesses. Furthermore, these raw samples were also contaminated with a controversial drug called the rectopamine, which is actually banned in China and Europe. Many other bacteria that is found in these raw samples are actually resistant to antibiotics. So this is actually very problematic when it comes to people who become sick after eating pork. I believe that knowing the truth about that plate of pork chops on our dining table should urge us to change our consciousness and change our actions and the way we think. So are we still going to support these cruel industries that continue to torture and mistreat innocent animals, that sacrifice their lives for the delight of a sensual pleasure? Do we want to allow that to happen? Because do you know that pigs are actually highly intelligent animals? Many studies have shown that they are inquisitive and also very conditional learners and very good at problem solving. They actually compared pigs with dogs, and it's shown that actually pigs are more intelligent than dogs, and they also learn tasks as quickly as chimpanzees. Pigs also are surprisingly hygienic. Do you know if given the chance, pigs would actually choose and delegate a place where they excrete and excrete their waste far away from areas where they sleep and eat? Pigs are also sociable animals, and they are actually curious and playful, and they are warm-hearted family companions alongside cats and dogs. So I believe it's time to change. I believe that it is time for ignorance to be lifted. We should be liberated from this negative collective karma that we inflict on ourselves because of these innocent sentient beings that are suffering. But for those of you who still insist on eating pork, I urge you to do so sparingly. And also, if you can, look out for organic or drug-free pork that's available in the markets or where you purchase your pork. That's raised in pastures and fed like a healthy diet, so that you reduce like the damage that you take in from your health, and also the pigs get to have a little more enjoyment before they become slaughtered for food. We all have a choice. We all have a right to choose. So you choose what you put on your forks and into your bodies. So please choose wisely for your health and for your moral integrity. Thank you.
Thank you, teaching. Please take 2 minutes to evaluate our speaker. And now to introduce Nelson. Please welcome Gene.
Thank you. Nelson Figueroa is doing his icebreaker tonight. The objectives for his speech are to begin speaking before an audience. Now, those of us who've been here in the club know he has been a regular and practicing, but there's always that moment when it's time to do a prepared speech, and you learn how to walk and chew gum at the same time. We're also to discover speaking skills that he may already have and skills that need some attention. His time is 4 to 6 minutes. Okay. Nelson grew up in a family of 5, his mom, 2 brothers, his sister, and himself. Nelson is the youngest and most daring, according to Nelson. Nelson left New York City to come to Iowa seeking a more calm and supportive environment. Well, he's definitely in a supportive environment here tonight. He is experienced in teaching gymnastics, inspiring people, and sales. Nelson is currently finishing a degree at MUM. The title of his speech tonight is A Way Out. Please help me warmly welcome this daring young man, Nelson.
I like a little bit more space so I can get more acquainted with you. Where I grew up, drugs, violence, and power played an intricate part in my culture. Also with a quality of family values. It was like seeing small groups of people hanging out together, laughing together, supporting each other, but also being violent towards other groups, selling drugs to other people, and even killing each other. I would see this in front of grocery stores, at the corner, along the sidewalk. But it was obvious to me that I saw both the good and the destructive nature of my environment. Welcome, beautiful people, Toastmasters, future guests, hopefully to come here, and inspired viewers at home. Today, I will give you a brief overview of where I grew up, the people that inspired me, my role models, and what I aspire to become. I was born on August 17, 1985 in the South Bronx. I grew up at several locations in the Bronx, but spent most of my time at 174th Street in Boston Row. Now, growing up in 174th, my culture comprised of mostly African Americans and Latinos. In my neighborhood, I saw drug waste all over the sidewalk, on the streets, in the staircases of my apartment, in the windowsill. I would see heroin vials on the floor, emptied, and even in the park where I used to play. As a youngster, I played basketball every day during the summer. And during the school season, I hung out with my friends and we would talk about life, we would philosophize, or I would be chasing girls or trying to make a little money. But I felt that money and power created a do or die mentality in my community, and drugs contributed to a destructive cycle. So I felt kind of jammed between the life I wanted to live and the life given to me. And through this experience, I learned what I did not want to become. However, growing up in the concrete jungle did not determine my fate, nor did it discourage me from finding a way out. In fact, it encouraged me to seek another way. And that other way was through education. I could not have done it without my mentors and teachers that helped my mind stay focused and helped my heart stay courageous. We all know how a role model can play a great impact into a young person's life and their future. Well, these are just a few of my role models that contributed to my success. Mr. Towie, a funny guy he was, with a funny smile when he talked. Mr. Towie was fun and enjoyable. He made learning very interesting. Because of him, I learned how to read each word without having to wander off the page. Mr. Towie was encouraging and invested in my success in succeeding in school. Miss Fairley, she created the situation that got me to love math. Pretty much, we got paid for answering questions correctly. So I enjoyed the rewards, and I kept answering the questions. But she gave me some very important advice after getting suspended from cutting class with my friends. She pulled me aside, and she said, "Nelson, remember, birds of a feather flock together." And I still remember, and it has served me well. And Miss Marilyn Summers, I cannot forget her. She has spent so much time helping me in getting into college and getting many scholarships. It's because of her that my undergraduate degree was pretty much paid. I can't tell you enough how much I love her and appreciate her. She is truly remarkable. As I look back, I am very fortunate to have these people in my life. They have given me the tools and skills to succeed in creating the life I see, not the life that was given to me. And my relationship with them have imbued a sense to teach that is impactful to young people. I am determined to continue this legacy in teaching the skills and competencies gained from my career and my life experiences. Currently, I'm finishing a master's degree in business with a strong focus in accounting. I see myself as a teacher, philanthropist, and a business owner in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nelson. Please take 2 minutes to evaluate this speech. Pencils down. And now to introduce our next speaker. Let me call up Luis.
Hello, Toastmasters, honored guests, viewers at home. Tonight, I will be introducing Annette of First, I'll be reading the objectives for her speech. It's her third speech of the Company Communicator Manual. So her objectives are to select a speech topic and determine its general and specific purposes, organize the speech in a manner that best achieves these purposes, ensure the beginning, body, and conclusion reinforces these purposes, project sincerity and conviction, and control any nervousness that she may feel, and strive not to use notes. Now, last time Annette told us about the time she was anchoring the news and inadvertently said the F word on TV. That was her fantastic speech, by the way. She told us some of what happened afterwards. She says many people in upstate South Carolina still think she got fired from the station. Tonight she'll tell us what actually happened, and again she'll use the word pork. Please welcome Annette Estes as she brings us part 2 of Mouth Enough, the negotiations.
Saying the F word during our live newscasts shook me out of my complacency. Toastmasters and viewers, I decided perhaps it was time for me to move on. So I got an agent. David had to be my secret agent because WSBA refused to negotiate with agents. Every year, the general manager of our Holy would give me a $2,000 raise, period. This time, I would be negotiating with our news director, Harvey, who did not have the most sparkling personality. At our first meeting, Harvey began by saying, after what you did in July, our Holy thought about not renewing your contract. But he's decided to offer you a 1-year contract at the same salary you're making now. I said, Harvey, what I did was awful for this station. It was awful for me. But I apologized publicly, and that's in the past. If it's going to be a condition of our negotiations, then we have nothing to talk about. He said, you're right. At the next meeting, Harvey said, we hear you have an agent. Yes. You know we don't negotiate with agents. I know. Eventually, he offered me $2,000 raise. I said I'd think about it. In the meantime, my agent David contacted WYFF-TV, the NBC affiliate in our market, and asked them if they would help him to find me a job in a bigger market. And they said, if Annette's leaving, we'd be interested in hiring her here. Thus began our negotiations with WYFF, which stands for We're Your Friend For. Now let's see. WSBA is offering me a 1-year contract and $62,000. WYFF offered me a 5-year contract starting at $75,000 up to $100,000 my 5th year. Plus, they would give me $600 extra every month for clothing and car allowance. No brainer, right? Maybe. My contract with WSPA said if I got an offer from a station in the same market, I could not accept it without giving them the chance to meet or beat it. That's fair. If I went to a station in the same market, I cannot go on the air there for 6 months. By now it's December. I have 2 weeks vacation coming, so I told both stations that I would give them my decision after the holidays. I went home to visit Mom for Christmas. I told her what I'd done first time, all that happened, how they didn't want to give me a raise and some other stuff. And my sweet little mother said, well, fork them. First and last time she ever said that word in her life. I came back, and on January 2nd, I met with Varholi and Harvey and gave them a letter that my agent had written outlining my offer from Channel 4. Now, my contract did not say I had to tell them where the offer came from, so David left that part out. Varholi tossed it back at me and said, well, you priced yourself out of this market. With a straight face, I said, so you can't meet or beat this offer? Nope. I guess I'm leaving then. Yep. Okay. Then he asked me, where are you going? Again, with a straight face, I said, not far. We shook hands. I went home and called Bill, the station manager at WYFF, and said, I'm ready to sign your contract. Then on January 6th, which is my birthday, our noon anchor, Jane, called me. Jane was a good friend. I'd confided all of this in her. She said, Annette, they've offered me your job, but we'll be competitors, and if that will hurt our friendship, I won't take it. I assured her it would not hurt our friendship. Then she told me at 6:30 that night, right after their newscast, they were going to have a staff meeting and tell everybody what was happening. I called Bill, told him that. He said, I'll call you back. He called me back and said that he had called Varholi, said, Joe, we hear Annette's leaving. Varholi said, nobody's supposed to know that. How did you find out? He said, well, what you don't know, Joe, is she's coming to work for us. Varholi said, she can't go on the air for 6 months. Bill said, yes, I know. Now here's the neat part. Channel 4's newscast was an hour. It ran from 6 to 7. That night, right before their 6:30 break, just as Channel 7's newscast was ending, my future co-anchor, Carl, announced to the viewers and to the Channel 7 newsroom that I was leaving WSPA and coming to work for your friend 4. Yes. That was, hands down, the best birthday I've ever had, even though everyone's a good one. When I went back to Channel 7 to clean up my desk, I felt like a hen going into the fox house. I was standing there putting all my stuff in a box, and our weekend sports anchor, Skip, whom I adored, threw open the doors of the newsroom and said, well, now we know what WYFF really stands for. Somebody said, what? He said, we're your forking friend. So on that note, I left the station for the last time. That was 28 years ago. And I must tell you, honest truth, just a few months ago, Joe Varholi asked me to be his friend on Facebook. And that was an offer I could not refuse. So, all's well, all that ends well, right? Or is it? Did I learn my lesson? You'll find out next time. Stay tuned. Thanks for watching.
Take 2 minutes to evaluate our final speaker. Come back. And now we shall vote for the best speaker of the evening. But first, a question. Mr. Timer, did all of our speakers qualify?
Everyone qualified. DJ Nelson.
Please vote for DJ, Nelson, or Annette. And now to carry us into the next portion of our meeting, it's my pleasure to call up the Master of Constructive Critique, Rick Starr.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, guests, and viewers at home, the evaluation section of our program allows us as Toastmasters to evaluate the speakers and for the speakers and ourselves to learn. So it's my pleasure to introduce Monty Condon, who will evaluate DJ's speech. Monty.
Toastmasters, our viewers at home, and especially DJ. DJ, I thought you had a really strong opener. Your introduction, you had a great attention getter. He gave us a warning. He warned us that his content and his speech is going to accept him, is going to make us sick, or it's going to bother us. It's disturbing. That was a really good drawing. You had my attention. I didn't know where it was going to go. And then you continued your introduction. You said that we owed pigs a lot. You introduced us to the whole thing about pork and pigs. Part of your objectives was to have a lot of supporting information or material to back up your points. And you provided us that. He gave us a list of statistics right in the very first part of the body of the speech. He said 90% of pigs are from U.S. factory farms. 80% of pigs that are slaughtered in the U.S. have ammonia when they're killed. I didn't know that. So I liked the new information that he brought out. I felt it was relevant to his topic. You also had a very strong conclusion. You had a call for action. You put a question to the audience. You asked, shouldn't we know where our food is coming from? He then went into, if you want to continue eating pork, here are some things that you can do. You can eat organic. You can look for pasture, more humane-raised meat. Or you can give it up altogether. So you gave us some action items, and I like that. Something that the audience can apply. So strong conclusion, strong opening. That was also an objective of yours. Mission accomplished. Your body is where I can see a little bit of an improvement. I didn't quite pick up on some of your transitions. The outline that the manual said, so that you're supposed to have at least 3 different points. I think some of them kind of blended together. So maybe more clarity in your transitions that way. And also, it looked like that you had memorized most of your speech, and that's a positive. You actually there's only one point or a couple points where you looked at your phone. So it was well memorized. What I would say for you is you're behind the podium most of the time. When you have most of the speech already in your head, feel free to do a little bit of movement. And that's something that you can work on in future speeches. Overall, though, I think this was a really good second project. You did demonstrate good organization. You had a good and clear intro and conclusion. I look forward to more, DJ.
Thank you, Monty. Now to evaluate Nelson's speech, Jean Symington Craig.
Fellow Toastmasters, viewers at home, and particularly Nelson. Really enjoyed Nelson's speech. It's right off, it says, what strong points does the speaker already have? He had good eye contact. He wasn't shy and buried in something. He really was looking out here. He didn't quite hit my eye totally, but I think he did one time. I was like, please, look at me. But that may have been because I was his evaluator, didn't want to land too much on that. But he also, he seems so grounded, and his energy is solid in his feet. He just has a gravitas up here that I really like. It's a subtle point, but I think it's a strength. He also had very deliberate word choices and no stumbling around in those choices. How well did the audience get to know the speaker? Well, we got to understand his background, the mentor influences, and then the resulting aspirations that he has developed as a result of his experiences. Very comprehensive. Did the speech reflect adequate preparation? I felt the speech was well written, and I felt it was very powerfully delivered. We'll get to the notes in just a second. Did the speaker talk clearly and audibly? very clearly, very audibly, and I felt he projected to the back of the room. No problem hearing in the back. Anyone in the back have any trouble? Okay, great. Did the speech have a definite opening, body, and conclusion? He started out with a sensory panorama of where he was born and his neighborhood, and really gave some visual color to that. And then he introduced us into the speech. And I hung on to, there was a point where he said he was looking for something like how to have the life he wanted versus the life he had been given. And I think that was the way out that his title reflects. Education was the key. He went on to outline the mentors and gave a personal story about each one. I love those different stories. And then all of those experiences led to him wanting to teach young people, give them skills and tools. Smooth use of notes, very comfortable with his hand here. I'm looking forward to having Nelson speak without notes, because I think he will make a more powerful connection with the audience in that way, because I think he's already got that going for him. So that's my main suggestion, is to move away from the notes, and that will come with more projects and practice. What did I really like about the presentation? I liked the changing facial expressions when he started talking about his mentors. You could just see him lighting up, and yeah, Mr. Da-da-da, and he's had that funny smile, and Mrs. So-and-so, and I just thought that was really cool. I liked his overall groundedness and his well-organized approach to his speech.
Thank you, Jean. And now Luis will evaluate Annette's speech.
Hello, hello. We've had an evening of great speeches. It was personally a very hard decision for me to vote on the speech. They were all excellent. So fellow Toastmasters, guests, and especially Annette, I thoroughly enjoyed your speech. I was actually very much looking forward to hearing your second part of the speech from a few weeks back. She gave us her first speech. So I'm glad I'm able to evaluate tonight your speaking skills. I noticed that as soon as you got on the stage, there was an instant control and comfort here just being on stage, just very natural. It was very engaging for the audience because you jump right into story time. Now, who doesn't love stories? You guys are paying attention. Good. So the fact that it was a personal story, I think, made it a powerful speech. I could feel that she just owned that speech because it was just so personal for her. Gestures seem to come very natural to you. You move on the stage very naturally, and you're able to paint a picture. I don't know if you guys can feel that. All her bodily movements allowed me to see a picture in the story, like with the shame gesture when you want to tell your mom. Now, Annette's general purpose was to either inform, persuade, entertain, and inspire us. I felt very entertained personally because I love stories. So the general purpose of the speech, that was definitely there to tell us more about your story. The specific purpose of the speech, hard to say. It's an ongoing story, so it wasn't clear to me what might have been the specific purpose of the speech. The speech organization supported the speech's specific purpose. Yes, lots of details, lots of different ways to relate one thing to another. The main point and supporting material contributed to the speech's specific purpose. Yes. But again, I'm not sure what that specific purpose. The speaker achieved this specific purpose. I'm not sure.
You're right, it was entertaining.
Huh?
Entertaining.
Entertaining, yes. Speaker up here, confident, sincere, with minimal nervousness, definitely confident, sincere, and no nervousness whatsoever, 0. The speaker did not rely on notes throughout the speech, 0 notes, 0 notes. What else do I have here? So my suggestion would be to check with the with the different objectives to make sure you hit all the different points. But I think you did an excellent job, and I really enjoyed your speech. So that's my evaluation.
Thank you, Luis. Now we'll move on to the table topics section.
I have a request, Rick. I think that I can't really time and evaluate this next section.
Since I'm doing my role.
Okay, so you'll time it. That'd be good. Got a hand.
Good, thank you. My pleasure to introduce our table topics master for this evening, Lindsay McMartin.
Table Topics is a time for Toastmasters where our members, and if guests were present, would be able to come up. I'll call on you to speak extemporaneously on a topic that I have prepared. And if any of you are like me, some point last week, you said to yourself, you looked at the calendars, finally, it's spring! Hung up your parkas and hats and got flip-flops out, and then you were reminded you were in Iowa and there's a downpour going on right now, and you never know what you're going to get with spring. But I have prepared some questions that hopefully you'll be able to speak about comfortably, and you'll have 1 to 2 minutes to qualify. And if you are not comfortable with the question that I give you, you can always segue into another topic that is similar. So if you don't want to talk about spring, you can talk about fall, or however else you'd like to comfortably segue to it. With that, do I have any volunteers? Oh, we've got a bunch of winter people. Thank you. What components would make up the most wild spring break vacation in history?
I feel confident when I move this table. What would make the most wildest spring break trip in all history?
Yes.
Okay. The most wildest spring break trip. Wow, I mean, I can think of many, many stories. I can also segue. But I'm going to stay track on this topic. I think the most wildest trip imaginable is going somewhere in space and pretty much visiting some place very unique. And the only place I would think is the center of the Milky Way. At night, you can catch it sometimes at 2 o'clock in the morning if you're up that late, maybe stumbling from a spring break, trip. So I think that would be the most amazing trip, is to visit the center of the Milky Way, because I think there's something happening there. There's so much activity, so much dynamism. All those stars are kind of collapsing into itself, into that very center point of energy. Is so explosive, and also energy is coming out of it. It's a duality. It's really amazing. It's explosive just even thinking about it in my brain. And I think this, in some way, in some form, maybe I'm able to see it, feel it, experience it, but I want to be that expansiveness. I guess if, I had to go somewhere for spring break, I would take a ship and go to the center of the Milky Way. What would happen? I can't tell you because I won't be back. But thank you very much.
Who'd like to be our next volunteer? Monty. Welcome. would you describe spring in Iowa to an alien that's never seen it before? How would you describe spring to an alien, spring in Iowa to an alien who's never seen it before?
Fellow Toastmasters, yes. Spring in Iowa to an alien. I guess you could describe spring to an alien anywhere. I would say it's miraculous. It's a miraculous time of year because you start out and everything's brown. It's dead. There's deribus, dead leaves around. Not much going on. It's cold, probably muddy. That's the beginning of spring. And by the time you get to the end of spring, it's the complete opposite. Things are green. It's warmer outside. The mud has started to dry up. There's sprouts. People are planting gardens. The earth is starting to awaken. It's a very transformational time of year. Now, assuming the alien hasn't ever seen this, it would definitely be magical. I say that it'd almost be as good as going to the center of the Milky Way. Mrs. Tabletop Master.
Are you a guest?
Yes.
Please, come forth. What's your name? Wahid?
Yes.
Welcome. Do you participate in any spring cleaning activities? If so, describe.
Yes. Do I participate in any spring cleaning activity? Yes. The answer is yes. Spring is the time of the year where everything just starts to relive again. Everything starts to grow again. The hearts give another life, and as everything is going to relive again, I also just have some mission, a goal to clean up the entire everything, to clean up my heart of hatred and things like that, which is a pressure, which is a burden on myself. I have the mission of cleaning my house so that when I invite some friends coming over, they will enjoy with me the clean house and the environment. I try to clean up the environment and to keep clean it up around myself, because when I go out, I would like to enjoy the environment and I would like others to enjoy it. So basically, I start with myself, which is my heart. I start to clean up. I start to call the people who I haven't called in years or in months. And maybe I have problem with them. So I call them and then I tell them how wonderful they are, how good they are, and how unfortunate I have been so far not to talk with them and not to be with them. So that way I just clean up my heart and whatever, myself. And then I start to clean up my house, so to enjoy with my family. And then I start to go and ask other people to come and join me and go out and then clean my environment and as much as I can do. And that's the way I do it. So thank you so much.
If we have time, I'd like to hear from any of the ladies on this side of the room for table topics. Anyone? Anyone? Not all at once. Take your time.
Raven.
Raven. What would be the first thing that you would do if a historically massive tornado was headed directly towards you?
morning, Toastmasters and viewers at home. There I might be, sitting on my back porch on the swing, reading a book, my cell phone by my side. Suddenly, the sky starts to turn green and a little tingly, you know? And then I hear a train, but there's no whistle. Oh, it's not really a train, it's a tornado coming. My phone starts with its alarm. Warning, historic tornado. The biggest tornado ever is coming your way. So first thing I do is I switch my phone over to camera. I wait. Where is it? And then when I see it click, 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 then quick in my pocket, then I run into my house, I grab my 2 cats. And out the door I run. They're screaming, scratching me, but I don't mind. I take my coat and I wrap them up, and then I walk calmly in the opposite direction of that tornado until I come to Hy-Vee, where the walls are made of concrete and I feel like it's pretty safe here, and at least we could have a good party and eat if we are all going to vanish in this tornado. I hope you all meet me there. Thank you.
Now to call up our table topics evaluator. I'm going to call him up right now. I'm getting so excited here. This has been an amazing sparkling evening, but we're going to vote first. Mr. Timer, did all of our table topic speakers qualify?
Yes, they all did. And their names are Nelson, Monty, Wahid, and Raven.
Please vote. Now to call up our table topics evaluator, I will call up Art Atkinson.
Well, Toastmasters and guests and viewers at home, this is a tough assignment. The enthusiasm with which everybody dug into this topic was really a fun aspect of it for me. Nelson was wildly enthusiastic about this trip to the center of the Milky Way, and it made a nice, I don't think it was really a segue. You did stick to the topic, but this is the most far out way of sticking to the topic that I can imagine. Your body language, your gestures, what's going on over there, and things imploding and exploding. And your best line was, "I'm not even coming back." What you might have done that would have made this even stronger would be a comparison to sort of the standard issue spring break, cavorting in the sand and the water at the beach or something like that. It's about the only improvement I could imagine. Monty, a description of spring to the alien. One of the good things you did, Monty, was you took the 30 seconds to think. Nelson, you just dove in without 30 seconds. Monty took some time, had great gestures, things growing up, the earth all muddy and brown and then transforming and life sprouting up out of the ground. Wahid, again, you took the 30 seconds or a good part of it to think and plan what you were going to say. That was excellent. You had 3 points. There's cleaning up my relationships, and I thought this was a brilliant way of answering the question. You took cleaning up my relationships and cleaning up what's in the heart, cleaning up my local personal surroundings in the house, and cleaning up the environment. I really enjoyed your talk. You did a lot of pacing back and forth, and if you choose to be a guest here more frequently, and you'll get a lot of opportunities to work on some of these skills, and the pacing is something I think you may want to give up. Raven, wow, the tornado is coming. Very creative answer. Grab that phone that's right next door, right on the next seat, and put it on video, grab the cats, and walk calmly in the opposite direction. The enthusiasm with which you delivered this really completely captivated me. I have trouble coming up with anything to suggest an improvement to that little talk. With that, I am done. Mr. General Evaluator.
timer or team timers? Did all our evaluators qualify?
I know Art did. Yes.
Could you tell us their names, please?
Art, Monty, Jean, and Luis.
Thank you. Please take 1 minute to vote for the best evaluator. Thank you. Welcome back. I'd like to now have our reports. And first, I'll call on Art to give the timer report.
In prepared speeches, DJ on 5 to 7 minute timing came in at 7 minutes, 8 seconds. Nelson at 4 to 6 minutes came in at 6 minutes, 14 seconds. Annette on 5 to 7 minutes came in at 7 minutes, 22. Table topics speakers, Nelson was at 1 minute 57, Monty 1 minute 07, Hy-Vee 1 minute 55, Raven 1 minute 18. Evaluators, I was at 2 minutes 27 seconds out of a possible 3. Monty 2 minutes 58, Jean 3 minutes 23, closing in on overtime, but still in qualification. And Luis 2 minutes 54. That's my
Prana, could you give us the grammarians report, please?
Glad to, yes. So tonight we had a lot of creative uses of the language with imagery and contrast and other things. So DJ, you said mouth-watering delicacies, change our consciousness and the way we think. Did you know? I liked how you asked the audience. That was good. And then Jean, metaphor walking and chewing gum at the same time. Nelson, you saw the good and the bad, money or power, do or die, kind of a contrast, or a forceful language, I guess. And the concrete jungle was good imagery for New York. Then the tools and resources to succeed in life that I seek, not that I was given. It's kind of a good life advice or something. And that you said it was a no-brainer, right? Well, maybe. So you kind of had us questioning, was it really? It's a good contrast. And best birthday in my life, all are good. Kind of, another, well, just kind of expressing how a good way to express the joy in that day for you. Monty, action items, something we can apply. It's a good phrase. Jean, you said grounded, gravitas in his feet, and you also used the word, or no, Annette used the word sparkling, sorry. Word of the day, and let's see, Nelson, I mean, somebody already mentioned that how you described you wouldn't be back from the trip to the Milky Way galaxy for spring break. That was a good description word of how you enjoy your break. Let's see. Yeah, that's pretty much. And then Monty, you said sparkling, and that's it. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Prana. Raven, can you give us the counter report, please?
Sure. Monty, you had 1 2 tongue clicks, and 2 false starts. Will, 1 you know, 1 but, 1 and. Art, 1 and. Prana, 7 ahs and ahs just now. 3 ums, 2 so's, 4 ands, 2 tongue clicks, and 2 false starts. Raven had 1 you know, 1 so, and 1 and. Did DJ, another for Raven. DJ, 1 ah, 5 so's, 4 ands, 2 tongue clicks, 1 false start. Jean, 1 so, 1 but, 2 tongue clicks, 1 false start. Nelson, 1 so, 3 buts, 2 ands, 6 tongue clicks. Luis, 1 2 ums, 3 so's, 1 but, and 1 tongue click. Annette, 2 so's, 2 ands, 4 tongue clicks. Rick, you have a clean slate. Lindsay, 1 1 and 2 ands. Nelson, 1, this was in your table topics, 1 so, 1 and that's it.
Now to tell us a joke, fresh from his 6-week engagement in Las Vegas, Dan Craig.
Fellow Toastmasters, a lion moved into a new area, and he wanted to make sure that everybody knew he was in charge. So he goes walking around in the jungle, and he comes across a bear. He says, "Bear, who is the king of the jungle?" The bear said, "You are, Mr. Lion." He said, "That's right." And he gave him a big roar. He walked on some more, and he came across a tiger. Big tiger. "Tiger, who is the king of the jungle?" Tiger kind of stared at him a while with sort of a glittering eye. He said, "You are, Mr. Lion." Oh, I said, "Phew, all right." Cool. Gave another roar. He walked on a little more. He came across an elephant. He said, "Elephant, who is the king of the jungle?" The elephant didn't say anything. He grabbed him with his trunk, he picked him up, he hit him on the ground, that way, against trees, back and forth. He threw him as far as he could. 100 feet away, the lion crashes down, crumples. He's really hurt. So he raises himself up and he says, "Hey, you don't have to get upset because you don't know the answer."
Thank you, Dan. Now it's time to evaluate the evaluators. And I like the job of being a general evaluator because the counter gives the report before. So I would all volunteer for this job. In my opinion, giving an evaluation is one of the most challenging things you can do in Toastmasters. You have to do 2 or 3 things within the space of 2 or 3 minutes. You need to go through the steps and go through the objectives. You need to put your own spin on it, make it your own, and plus you have to give a well-constructed speech. So I'll go through each of the speech evaluators, starting out with Monty. Monty, you gave a very good speech, very well-organized speech. You had a beginning, middle, and an end. You started out with a subjective evaluation of the introduction of the speech, where it was a kind of a startling introduction, and you expressed that. Your greetings, your introduction was good. You did gave all the information you needed to give. You gave some suggestions how to improve the speech. You gave demonstrations of moving from behind the stage. You had very good vocal variety. The speech was well constructed. It was a good speech. It was a good subjective evaluation. I have 3 suggestions for you. You didn't mention the title of the speech in the introduction. I would suggest you get together with the speaker before the speech to get that information. When you were giving the speech, you repeated several things that the speaker had said. It's not necessary to repeat it. We had just heard what the speaker said. I would just say, give the general category of what the speaker did well. And I think you could have spent a little more time on the written objectives of the speech. The objectives are there because each project we are to learn different things, so it's important to go through those objectives. Jean, running away from you before I give this. Your speech had a slightly different subjective quality. You went through the objectives in the speech. At the same time, you gave it your own spin. You made it your own. You also gave your emotional reaction to different parts of the speech, which was good. And you gave several areas to improve. You have a very natural vocal variety and very natural gestures, and you use that in the speech to good effect. The only suggestion, one thing that you do well, that I always admire you for, you always come within seconds of meeting the time. So 3:23 for you, that's like a huge margin. 7 seconds is a huge margin. Usually it's 1 or 2. So I would practice that a little more. Gene, you're slipping a bit. And, thank goodness you didn't do one thing, so I do have a suggestion for you at the beginning. You didn't greet the audience when you introduced the speech. So thank goodness for that, otherwise I wouldn't know what to say. Louise, giving an evaluation is a very difficult thing. It's a very challenging thing. You went through all the topics, you went through all the objectives. Towards the end, you had a couple of I don't knows. When you came to an objective, I would suggest that you think of something, even if it's 1 or 2 words, how they met those objectives. You did greet the audience. You started out with hello, hello. I thought that was going to be the greeting, and I was going to give you credit for that, but then you greeted the Toastmasters. You said a lot of nice things. Who doesn't love stories? You went through a lot of the things that Annette did very well. Towards the end, you were talking mostly to the book. This is, again, one of the challenging things of getting an evaluation is to read your notes and at the same time keep eye contact with the audience. So that's one thing I suggest you do. Art. Evaluating table topics is kind of speed evaluation. You have to give a little bit for each person, and you did that. Table topics are very subjective, and your evaluations were very subjective. They were enthusiastic, they were appreciative, and except for maybe one or two, you did have a suggestion for each person. So that's a challenge, and I think you met it. One suggestion I have is if you can think of a way to improve as your suggestion, maybe think of a slightly different way to do it. It's not necessarily that they did it wrong, but maybe they could do something else or add it. And that gives us the practice of always being able to come up with suggestions for a speech. Thank you. My pleasure to turn the program back over to our Toastmaster, Mr. Gilbert.
Thank you, Rick. Now it's my pleasure to present the meeting awards for tonight. First up, for Best Evaluator, Meeting Scientific Rick. For Best Table Topics, Raven. And actually, it's good enough it's here because for Best Speaker, we actually have a tie called DJ and Annette. And now,
Sorry,
in closing, I'll call up for speech number 3, Annette. And number 1, Nelson. And now it's my pleasure to call up our President Pro Tem, Monty Conlon.
Mr. Toastmaster. Our meeting is
almost at an end. Do we have any club business? Gee.
Since we have a couple minutes.
Yes,
I
we
just
do.
wanted to address Mr. Rick Starr about this timing, trying to go for the last second. May I do that? Okay. I used to do that. I used to go 3 minutes, 27 seconds. Yes! You know, just close. However, that's not a good strategy because if you go to 3:31, you are disqualified, which is what happened to me when I went to division competition as in an evaluation competition. Now my excuse was I had 102 temperature. So it's really important to know who your backup is, but my backup wasn't available and I didn't want to punt, so I went. So I was a little spacey, but I was disqualified 1 second over. And my instincts were a little muddy because of the fever, but that was my instincts. I would go because I felt like, the red light's on, but I know where I am, and like that. And at that point, I decided 3 minutes and 15 seconds was the new orange, the new black. Is that orange and black? Anyways, the new black. So that's the thing. So I actually kind of went over my deal. And if you start seeing me heading back towards 3 minutes and 30 seconds, you need to take me to task because that is cutting it too close. Thank you.
I'll say something. I don't know about some of you, but I have trouble when I'm up here talking to people and I'm looking at you. I'm not thinking about the lights. And I may look and oh my gosh, the red light came on, but did it just come on? Has it been on 30 seconds? Whatever. One thing that if we could borrow from TV, we used to get time cues. This was 30 seconds and on down, and they counted us down 10, 9, 8 because we had to be exactly on time. If the timer, we could like say, red light comes on at 30, and then when we have 15 seconds left, if the timer could just like hold his fist up, that's the cue for 15 seconds. That would be really helpful to me and probably some others. Why not stay on?
That's good advice. Something else that I've seen, actually, it was DJ. DJ would blink it when it switched.
Yeah.
When it first switched. That would actually, I was up here when he was doing that, and that's actually very noticeable.
It is very
Maybe this
good.
is
I would really like to do something.
That's something that we can implement with timers.
That would help.
You know, we can talk about it, like when you first switch the light to red, a couple of times. You could input a chime. Now we're getting complicated.
I'm not going to be on camera when I say this, but the only minus from that is that that's not a Toastmaster standard. So if somebody gets used to doing that, goes to a contest, they're going to be at a big disadvantage.
Okay. Valid points here. Something to talk about. Maybe
I
it's
timed
the
mine a
next.
bunch of times at home. It was 6 minutes, and it came out 7:22.
It always does.
I know.
It always does.
And I even paused. I said, I could pause the board. And I only added the word sparkling.
Well, we'll do some research as officers. We can look into it.
Yeah.
We have a meeting coming up here in a couple of weeks. We can discuss it as a action item on our agenda.
We can start it and then tell the rest of it too.
Is there anything from you, Jody, for membership or
dues collection.
still dues?
Yeah, still, but most of them are.
So
So
you came in hunting for dues. So Jody's the due hunter.
I'm here to collect dues.
But if there's no other club business, we'll adjourn until next week. Thanks for coming out tonight. The weather wasn't perfect, but you braved it all. Iowa spring, right? Back and forth. Motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Second, double.
Second. Let's go.